Hey guys, it's Dr. Mojon here from drmojon.com. And after 15 years of being a functional medicine doctor, in this very video, I'm going to get to the bottom of two of the biggest conditions that I've seen in my career. Number one, we're going to talk about weight loss resistance. You guys, I tell you what, I can't count anymore how many people have come to me over the years and said, Dr. Mojon, here's my diet. Here's my workout routine. Now, why can't I lose weight? The second issue that is way up there is people with hormone issues. So what I'm going to get to on this video and what you're going to learn by the end of this is you no longer have to guess. By the way, before we go any further, there's no magic supplement. There's no magic diet. By the way, you've all tried the diets already. What you're going to learn is that there is a system that is customized with good testing and good direction that you can get and live the life that you're truly designed to live. So I'm also going to talk about what happens at a cellular level. I have always said if you don't heal the cell, you'll never get well. So I'm going to talk about what should happen at the cellular level, and I'm also going to talk about what more than likely is happening at the cellular level inside of your body. So let's go there, for example. So inside your body, there are 70 trillion cells. By the way, that is amazing. And what I know through my neurology training and my medical training is that your body is designed to be self-healing and self-regulating. So when we talk about things like weight loss resistance and hormone balance, this schematic and how this works is going to shed huge light for you. So the first thing that we have to understand is that on all of our cells, we have receptor sites. And according to research, we have upwards of thousands of receptor sites in our body. So for things to get inside of our cell, they have to be able to bind to the receptor. They have to be then carried through the cell membrane. Now let's talk about the cell membrane. Now I don't need to bore you with big biochemistry, but the more you understand about this, the more this will make sense to you. So if you want to even draw this with me, you might be able to catch up. So every single cell in your body has what we call a phospholipid bilayer. What that means in English is there's a double layer of fat on every single cell in your body. So if you're doing the low fat or the fat free, just understand that you could be breaking up and damaging the membrane of every single cell in your body. Now, for something to happen at the cellular level, and I'm going to talk about different types of testings that can prove this for us, but for something to happen inside of our body, it has to go inside of the cell. And once it gets inside of our cell, your body can then produce things like proteins, and then your body will actually release those outside. So in a healthy cell, a hormone, say progesterone or estrogen or testosterone, binds to a cell receptor. It then gets carried inside the cell where some type of a protein is made. It is then carried outside of the cell so it can act upon our body appropriately. By the way, that is what is supposed to happen. The reality is, it's not what's happening. And if you're that person that's tried the detoxes, you've tried the diets, you've cleansed this and flushed that, you need to pay attention. So according to the Time magazine front cover article, we know that one of the greatest things that can affect your body is inflammation. It is the big I letter that I talk about. So inflammation. Now this is different than if you've got a bad shoulder or you stepped wrong and sprained your ankle. That's localized inflammation. When we talk about inflammation, we are literally talking about every cell in your body. And what happens is the cell membrane literally becomes inflamed. Why that is a big deal to you is that it is then much more difficult for things that are outside of the cell to get inside of the cell so our body can actually use them. By the way, hormones and other components that come in. Now, one of the greatest causes of this inflammation is toxicity. Now, we all know that we live in a toxic world. However, what I have found in 15 years of functional medicine is I don't like to make assumptions, because we all have what I call biochemical individuality, which means we're all unique in certain ways. So there's actually ways that we can test this. So much so, get this, there was actually a Duke University study that talked about mice that were subjected to a certain toxin called BPA. And you all have heard about this before. This is a toxin that's in plastics. By the way, these mice were subjected to that BPA toxin, and guess what? Regardless of their diet, regardless of their exercise program, these mice became obese. Oh, by the way, with only one exposure, it affected successive generations with obesity. So part of your weight loss thing may not even be your fault, but guess what? In that study, they found one magic clue through some genetic testing that they could go and they could tweak what's called an epigenetic component, or an expression of the gene, and those mice, guess what? Became skinny again. I bet you'd like to learn more about that. The other thing that we're learning a lot about right now in the world of toxicity are things called heavy metals. Some of the most common ones that we see in today's day and age, the first one is mercury. So according to the American Dental Association, if you or someone that you love has one of those silver fillings in your mouth, that filling contains between 50 to 52% mercury inside of it. The second heavy metal that we are seeing a lot of is lead. Now, my generation, like my children, for example, have never really been subjected to leaded gasoline or leaded paints. However, what we know through some pretty cool research is that when women have a developing baby inside of them, they give a significant amount of their bone structure to that developing infant. By the way, that's amazing. And we know this. We even did a test on my 12-year-old daughter. By the way, my daughter's never lived in a house built prior to 1978. She's never been around leaded gasoline. But we did the proper heavy metal test with my 12-year-old daughter. And Adrian, my daughter, came back with lead at 300% higher than what it's supposed to be inside of her body. Yet we know through research that my daughter got her lead from the previous 3 generations. So if you are not properly testing for these things, and most importantly, if there's a source of heavy metals, if there's a mercury or a lead, before you do any detox program, you must get rid of the source. You know, this is like trying to find a fancy air compressor when you have a leak in your tire. Fix the tire. This is the concept. If you have a silver fill in your mouth, I'm telling you right now, after 15 years of functional medicine work, if you have a silver fill in your mouth, you must work with a functional medicine doctor that hooks you up with a biological dentist, and you safely get those removed. However, if you're not healthy, you cannot do that work right away. I have had literally train wrecks that have presented in my clinical practice that have taken this work into their own hands. So I beg you, do not do detoxification when the source of the toxin is still inside of your body. You guys, it makes no sense. So you have to be able to test for these things. The thing I can tell you right now is, this is kind of my favorite mantra, but it's don't guess. Test. We now have the ability to literally check every micronutrient, every hormone, most forms of toxicity. So even if you're taking a vitamin, you now have the ability through really reasonably priced testing, by the way, some of it's completely covered by your insurance company, to see if you actually need these things or not. So the first thing is about this concept about inflammation. By the way, inside the cell is where your body actually produces energy. So when we have people that have hormone issues, we see things, especially with like the thyroid hormone, we see people that have things like fatigue and constipation and dry hair, yet they go and they get blood work done, and for example, their TSH is normal. And you might be one of these people, you have all of the symptoms, yet you go to your doctor and your doctor says, there's nothing wrong with you. Your hormones are normal. So inside the cell, you have your mitochondria. This is what produces energy. So if you can't get things inside of your cell, then that organelle cannot produce energy for you. So fatigue is one of the things that you're dealing with. If you don't go to the cell and heal the cell, then you're going to find just another program that's failed you. The other component is how these heavy metals work. We know that these heavy metals compete for binding sites with your hormones. Now, you've all heard of the term insulin resistance. You guys, what this literally is that insulin cannot go from your blood to inside of your cell. Your cell is literally resistant to the insulin coming inside. Now, this is one of those tests that you do not assume. You test for this. So we have a blood test that we can actually test for free insulin. We also test for another hormone in a blood test called leptin. Leptin is a hormone that allows your body to feel satisfied, full. Satiation is the fancy medical term for that. It also tells us whether or not you can use healthy fats as a primary fuel source. Other hormones that we can measure are things like progesterone, estrogen, even testosterone. Guys, if you're watching this, or ladies, if you're watching this for your guy, you guys would be surprised how many 20 and 30-year-old men that I see clinically that have significantly deficient amounts of testosterone. By the way, that is super scary, you guys. When your hormones drop off, now it's not a lack of hormones, though. By the way, at the end of this talk here, I'm not going to tell you to start taking these hormones, because what I can tell you right now is it is not a lack of hormones. Because here's what typically happens. If you've taken a synthetic or a natural hormone, it works something like this. Initially, it works for a little bit, and then very quickly, 30, 60 days later, it no longer works. Here's the analogy that I give with that. Let's say that my boys are not listening very well. So I raise my voice, and when I raise my voice behave. However, if I kept talking to that and talking to my sons in that raised voice, they would tune me out after a while. Well, it's really no different in your cell. You can saturate your serum or outside of the cell with hormones and it'll work for a little bit. But if your cell is resistant to hormones, it will no longer work. I tell you what, I have had hundreds of patients where we've measured dosages of hormones and looked at things like TSH. Because once you start taking these hormones, they're really saying if your TSH is normal, you're okay. By the way, there's never been a piece of research that says a normal TSH equals a normal functioning thyroid gland. Let me say that again. There's no research that says normal TSH equals a normal functioning thyroid gland. You can have normal TSH and still have fatigue, dry skin, hair loss, constipation. These are absolutely normal things that come with that, but it doesn't mean you have to live with them. Here's the other thing that I really want to talk about in the testing world. You see, we have the ability to test the serum or the blood. We also have the ability to test what actually gets inside of the cell. We have a intracellular test available to us to actually ask what's getting inside the cell. This has been groundbreaking for us clinically. So when people work with myself and my health coaches, I tell you what, we go back to the beginning. You see, if you don't figure out what the cause is, if you don't figure out what the toxicity is, or what the exposure is, or where the deficiencies are, another detox program, another fancy diet, another fast, it's not going to work for you. So the analogy that I use with people that work with me in the functional medicine world, it's a lot like I'm a home builder. And when you hire me, we literally walk to the lot that you have picked out with your family to build your dream home. And once we determine where your house is going to sit on this lot, then the dirty work starts. Literally, we bring out the chainsaws and the backhoes and the earth movers. And you're like, oh my gosh, this doesn't look anything like a house. And you're right. And then after that, even worse, we start to dig a basement and dig footings and pour concrete. Again, looks nothing like a house. But with your health, because a lot of people with these fancy detox protocols, because people get worried about with their house, what color will my walls be? What type of cabinets will I have? What flooring will I have? Well, those things matter. However, if you are not built on a solid foundation, if with your health we don't know what the cause is, then those pretty walls and fancy cabinets, once they get a little bit of stress, they're of no benefit to you. So we have to start with an extraordinarily in-depth evaluation. We need to clear the lot. We need to dig a foundation so that we can start from the beginning and slowly build your health up. Because eventually what it takes is these baby steps with good testing and good accountability to give you the tools that you exactly need to get to where you are. So again, it's not a lack of hormones. It's not the wrong diet. It's not the wrong workout program. Now, don't get me wrong, diet and workout programs, those are important. However, if you don't know what you're going after, those things don't work very well. So we have the ability to do the testing, and we need to figure out what this is causing in here. So again, this inflammation on the outside of the cell doesn't allow things in. The other thing that's important to understand, that if something makes it in, and there's this inflammation, it's tough for things to get outside of the cell also. Think of this like a fire inside of your house. Guys, rarely do the flames kill somebody. It's the smoke. So what happens with the cellular inflammation is anything that happens inside the cell causes literal smoke inside the cell. So all the things that are supposed to happen inside the cell, they don't work any better. So hopefully this video causes great interest for you, because what I know is that if you don't heal the cell, you'll never get well. And we're talking cells, whether it's in your gut or your kidney or your liver or your brain. This is the foundation of true functional medicine work. And what I know that I know, when we do the right testing, we ask the right questions, and we do the dirty work first, that you can have the information and the tools that you deserve to live the life that you're designed to live. Hey guys, it's Dr. Mojon here. So we have had an extraordinary response from our last video where I drew the cell and I talked about weight loss resistance and I talked about inflammation. People have literally been bombarding us to say, how do I learn more? I think this is for me, so I want to take the next steps. So instead of answering hundreds of emails, I wanted just to come and create this quick little video for you that explains what this whole thing looks like. So here's the exact steps. I'm going to give you kind of an idea of what it's like to work with myself and my team. So the first thing you do is go to my website, drmojon.com. And on that site, we have what we call the discovery call. Now, this is a free call. The reason that I do a free call is a couple reasons. Number one, to be very upfront with you, I can't fix everything. So I do this call because I need to interview you to see what you have going on, what you've tried, kind of your willingness to make changes, and I get to be able to ask some questions to know if I'm a good fit for you. I do not accept every case. I have to be very selective because I'm the managing doctor on every single case that comes across my plate. I don't farm stuff off to my residents or my understudies. I am the clinician with these. From the discovery call, then you also have the opportunity to ask me questions. You see, you're looking to hire me and my team to work for you. So I also want you to have some questions for me to see if you think that I'm a good fit for you. So that call I don't charge anything for because I need to know whether or not I can help you and whether I'll accept your case. If I say that I think you're a good fit, you'll then be invited to do what we call our initial evaluation. By the way, this is my most favorite part of functional medicine. I have a proprietary piece of software where it takes you between 5 to 7 hours to fill out information about your health. Remember in that last video, I said if we don't figure out the cause, we'll never get you figured out. So I literally will ask questions back to your birth. We ask questions about exposures, about every system inside of your body. We do diet logs. We look at toxicity things on there. So this initial evaluation, by the time you get it back to me, it's about a 50 to 60 page document. With this, then you and I will then sit on about a 2-hour video conference where I have your paperwork in front of me, and then you and I go through and I ask more questions, and we get really clear on exactly what the cause is. I get a clear understanding so that you understand also where it's coming from. And then our next step after the initial evaluation is to figure out what labs we order. And like I said in the last video, some of the labs actually, if you have like a commercial insurance, like a Blue Cross or something like that, they cost you nothing. Because because of my professional association with some of these lab companies, some of these labs are even less than $100 to run. So get to drmojon.com, sign up for the free discovery call, allow me and you to have a legit conversation to see if you're a fit, and if you are, hey, welcome to the family. And if we accept your case, I know that we can help you get the tools and the ability to live the life that you're designed to live.